Hello children and welcome to Study with Sudhir, your digital classroom with me TS Sudhir. And before we start with the lesson for today, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and also press on the bell icon so that you can get regular updates on all the analysis, explanations, all the poems and the short stories of the ICSE class 10 that we are putting on this particular YouTube channel. And also we'll be following it up with lessons from history, civics, geography and biology. So a lot of portion to cover and it's already October. So let's get started without losing any time. And as I say always, keep the book in front of you. This is chapter 10, 9 gold medals, the poem by David Roth. And also don't forget to keep a pencil so that you can scribble on the book itself, or you keep a notebook and a pen or pencil so that you can take down notes, because the notes are important. Because I would advise you, I would suggest to you that you need to use the same phrases that I'm telling you in your answer sheet so that your answers look impressive. They are in great detail and the examiner will be happy to give you full marks. Okay. So let's get started. This is the story about the Special Olympics. Now, what are the Special Olympics? The Special Olympics are in which differently abled athletes take part, and this is something very special because all of them want to prove that despite their physical disabilities, they are less than no one else. So they are as good as any other abled athlete. So this is the Special Olympics for which they have prepared for months and years, and they want to prove that they are the best. So let's get started. The athletes had come from so many countries to run for the gold, the silver and the bronze. Pretty clear, pretty self-explanatory. Many weeks and months in training, all building up to the games. Building up as in looking forward to the big day, the D-Day of the Special Olympics, and they had spent many weeks and months in training to excel at these Special Olympics. Okay, all around the field, spectators were gathered. The spectators were also there in large numbers to cheer on, to see who is the one who is going to get the gold, the silver and the bronze, and encouraging each one of these athletes to give their best, break records in the Special Olympics, cheering on all the young women and men. Then the final event of the day was approaching. The last race about to begin. The last race was the 100 meters race, which will actually establish who is the fastest runner among these special athletes, among these differently abled athletes. And that is what most people look for. I mean, we have seen the likes of Carl Lewis in the past, Usain Bolt in the recent past, coming and winning the 100 meters, 200 meters race, because that kind of established that they are really like the cheetah, run faster than any other human being on earth. In this case also, the 100 meters race in the Special Olympics will prove which one of these differently abled athletes is the fastest runner at this Special Olympics. So this is really the most coveted gold, silver and bronze. This is the medal that they all aspire for, and as the poet has said, that many months, many weeks of training has gone into ensuring that they really come on top in this particular 100 meters race. This is the final event of the day. The loudspeakers called out the names of the runners, the 9 runners. There are 9 differently abled athletes, all of them in their tracks, in the tracks that they are supposed to run. You would have seen this race, it's start to finish, and it kind of finishes before you can even blink. The 100 meters race to be run, and 9 young athletes stood there determined and poised for the sound of the gun. Poised as in waiting intently to hear the sound of the gun, because there isn't even a split second moment to waste to just take off from the start point to the finish line. Okay, so they are there, their nerves are tense, they are just waiting for the sound of the gun to just take off for the finish line, which is at a distance of 100 meters. The signal was given, the pistol exploded. You see the kind of words that the poet gives to kind of build up to the tension of what really happens when the 100 meters race is about to begin. The signal was given, the pistol exploded, and so did the runners on hearing the sound. So did the runners on hearing the sound, as in they just took off like a bullet. Just like the pistol has exploded, the runners take off almost like a bullet from the pistol towards the 100 meters finish line. But the youngest among them stumbled and staggered. Suddenly, in the fourth stanza, there is a twist to the tale. There is a twist to the tale. The youngest among them, the youngest among those 9 differently abled athletes, stumbled and staggered. Stumbled as in he missed a step, and staggered. Again, he could not kind of regain his rhythm and run again. So he staggered a little more. So he obviously lost those precious seconds because he had stumbled. Maybe he tripped over one of his legs and staggered, and he fell on his knees to the ground. So you just see the kind of contrast that he has built up. He has spoken about the pistol that will explode. He has spoken about everyone waiting there, determined and poised for the sound of the gun. And the moment the gun shoots, everyone takes off. But the youngest one among them stumbles and staggers and falls on his knees to the ground on the track inside the stadium, where there are lots of people cheering on the 9 athletes. He gave out a cry of frustration and anguish. Just look at the choice of words that David Roth has used. Each one of them kind of conveying the emotions and actually giving you a picture. You can almost picture what is actually happening there in the stadium. He gave out a cry of frustration and anguish. Anguish as in sheer angst and despair at what had really happened to him after weeks and months of training. Frustration, feeling very, very sad at what had happened to that young athlete. His dreams and his efforts dashed in the dirt. Dirt, not literally on the track perhaps, but also the whole thing looking not good to him anymore. His dreams, he had dreamt of winning a medal and being there on the podium, getting that medal around his neck. But that dream had been dashed to the ground, dashed in the dirt of that track in the stadium. His efforts had all gone in vain. But as sure as I am standing here telling the story, now it's a strange one, but here is what occurred. Now this whole story, David Roth is a spectator in the stadium, just like many other people are there cheering on. And he says, and as sure as I'm standing here telling the story, he's seeing it for himself. He's an eyewitness. And it's a strange one, because after this, after the build-up, the fall of the young athlete, and then there is a twist to the story, a second twist to the story. The 8 other athletes stopped in their tracks. The other 8 athletes, you would have normally expected that they would shoot towards a finishing line, because they have to also be on the podium. That's what each one of them had aspired for. The ones who had trained for so long to compete. The other 8 had spent so many weeks and months and sweat and blood in order to compete and excel. One by one, they turned around and came back to help him and lifted the lad to his feet. Lad as in the young boy. He was the youngest among the 9 runners. One by one, each one of those 8 runners came back. They did not finish the race. They came back to help him, and they lifted the lad who had fallen on his knees to the ground, stand on his feet. Then all 9 runners joined hands. They held each other's hands just like they were standing in their track. Joined hands and continued the 100 meters reduced to a walk. Now they were no longer running, they were walking, but what is most important is that they were walking together, holding each other's hands. And the banner above that said Special Olympics, because in the stadium they had put up these banners which said Special Olympics, could not have been nearer the mark. Nearer the mark, now obviously everyone is talking about the finishing line, the 100 meters mark. But this one, the banner which said Special Olympics, and there was the sight of all 9 runners holding each other's hands, walking towards the finishing line. The author, the poet, means that this was really the Special Olympics. This sight, this optics, this spectacle of the 9 runners holding each other's hand after having helped the 9th runner get on his feet and walking towards the finishing line, that was the real Special Olympics. That's how the race ended, with 9 gold medals. 9 gold medals, the title of the poem, because each one of them was a winner, both literally and metaphorically. Literally, because each one of them got to the finishing line at the same moment. So each one of them won the 9 gold medal. There was no silver medal, there was no bronze medal. All of them, the 9 athletes were gold medalists. And metaphorically, because they had actually won the hearts of all the spectators in the stadium, as well as the 8 athletes had won the heart of the 9th young athlete who had fallen to the ground. Normally what would have happened? Among the 8 we would have got the gold medalist, the silver medalist and the bronze medalist, and the 9th runner would have been obviously ending up the last. But in this case, they had actually come back, helped him to get to his feet and also finish the line and be a winner along with the other 8. So each one of them was a winner, each one of them was a gold medalist. They came to the finish line holding hands still, and the banner above and 9 smiling faces. So each one of them was smiling, the 9th one obviously because he had been helped, and the other 8 who also felt very good having done this kind of an absolutely great and humanitarian gesture. Said more than these words ever will. The sight of those 9 smiling athletes, 9 gold medalists, said much more than the words Special Olympics or the words of this poet ever will. That's why he repeats those lines, said more than these words ever will. He wants to emphasize this poem also cannot encapsulate, cannot capture, cannot adequately describe the kind of emotion that the whole stadium saw with their own eyes of 9 gold medalists with holding their hands still and being a winner in every sense of the word. Right? So what does it mean? Please note down some of the points that I would want to say. One, that the physically challenged people, the differently abled athletes actually challenge the usual definition of a race. You would have played, you would have taken part in a race in school or in your colony or in any other kind of competition. Everyone aspires to come first, faster than the other runners who are also part of the competition. But here the differently abled athletes challenged the usual definition of a race where speed is of essence. Here what they actually underlined is that humanity, friendship, courage, valor, sympathy, these are the things which matter. I will repeat, courage, valor, sympathy, friendship, these are the things which, these are the virtues that actually matter much more than just wanting to finish first. So they actually challenge the usual definition of a race where the emphasis is on coming first. Here also they come first, but there are other 8 also who come first along with them. And what they prove is that together, each one of them can be a winner. Each one of them was a winner on that particular day at the Special Olympics. So together, we can all win. If, as opposed to the culture where everyone wants to defeat the other person and emerge a winner. But together, each one of them proved to be a gold medalist. A usual race, as I said, is about competition. But here, this was about friendship, about reaching out to another person who was in some kind of trouble or distress. The other point, if you see in the last stanza, the second last stanza, then all the 9 runners joined hands and continued the 100 meters reduced to a walk. A race is about outdoing the other person. Understand? A race is about outdoing the other person. But a walk is about harmony. A walk is about being in step with the other person, being in sync, being in harmony with the other person. And that is the kind of sentiment that this particular poem by David Roth essentially emphasizes on. When he falls down, it's also that he gave out a cry of frustration and anguish. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 5th stanza's opening line, first line, he gave out a cry of frustration and anguish. It also means that it conveyed both mental agony because he had prepared for about many weeks and months and all that was coming to naught, it was going waste. And it also talks about the physical agony because remember, they are differently abled athlete. So when he falls down on the ground, it will also cause him a lot of pain. So we are talking of both mental as well as physical pain and agony. The final big takeaway from this particular poem is that they were differently abled athletes, but they had a big heart, and they had their heart in the right place. They had a big heart. They were not petty. They did not think only of themselves and finish the race. Not just one or two, but all 8 of them thinking alike. In that sense, they had the big virtue of sympathy, of compassion, and that is the big takeaway from this poem, that each one of us also should think the same way, that we should have our heart in the right place. We should feel for people who are probably not good enough, not just in this context, but in the context of life, to be able to reach out to people who deserve a helping hand, who deserve sympathy, who deserve some kind of help from us. We should be able to reach out to them and provide them, instead of only thinking about our own individual self, instead of being selfish, instead of being self-centered. So these 8 other athletes actually showcased that particular sentiment, that they were good enough, they were large-hearted, they were big-hearted in order to ensure that they did not think about only their gold medal or silver or bronze, but they thought of the 9th athlete who had fallen down on the ground. One of the questions that is sometimes asked is, would you have done the same? That is up to you, but I would believe that you need to point out that these are the positive sentiments, these are the positive takeaways from this poem, and if you really think so, you would also actually do the same in your daily life. Obviously, all of us are not athletes, but in our daily life, if you are able to extend a hand of friendship and help someone else, yes, you would also be willing to do something very, very similar. Being there for another person when the other person reaches out to you, when the other person is in trouble, when the other person is in some kind of distress. And the 9 smiling faces at the end, what does it convey? It conveys that the anguish had turned into smiles on the faces of all the 9 athletes. They did not feel bad that they had lost out in any way, that only they did not come first and that they had to share the gold medal with 8 others, but they all felt happy in each other's success story. So that is the poem by David Roth, a very positive message that comes out of this poem, 9 gold medals by David Roth. As I said, the question came, it figured in the 2019 examination paper, which is the first time this particular syllabus was introduced. So definitely a very important poem. I hope it is pretty clear to you as to what is the larger messaging from this poem, as well as all the keywords I would want you to underline. Keywords like athletes, gold, silver and bronze, many weeks and months in training, games, spectators, 100 meters, 9 young athletes, stumbled, staggered, fell on his knees to the ground. Now these are some of the keywords, and it's always better that when you're writing the answer to use these keywords, because that gives an impression to the examiner that this particular student understands the poem very well, has read the poem many times and is very familiar with each and every keyword. So usage of the keyword definitely important, because you do get marked on that from an examination point of view. But if you understand the poem and use the phrases that I have used in the explanation, you would be able to impress the examiner with your understanding of the poem. So both keywords and a good understanding of the poem will go a long way in ensuring that you are actually able to get a full 16 on 16 if this particular poem figures in your examination paper. So that's it then. On this particular episode of Study with Sudhir, we have analyzed 9 gold medals. Do write in the comment section, or you can also email to me if you have any doubts which you need clarification on, and I would be more than happy to do that for you. Thank you very much for joining us on Study with Sudhir.